Coming to you from the loveliest village on the plains.
Steps up. He's going to throw downfield. Just a home run ball, and it is tipped up. And Lewis got it on the deflection. Lewis is going to score. Lewis is going to score.
Auburn football all season long.
Now they can play a little safer, but they're not going to. Nix is back. Throws it downfield. Caught. Touchdown, Williams.
Hosted by Nick Higdon and Jackson Drake.
20. Peterson, the one-man to beat at the 5. He is in. Touchdown, Auburn.
The Man-to-Man AU podcast is on now.
It's game time, baby. Let's go.
What's up, guys, and welcome to Season 5 of the Man-to-Man podcast out here in the Plains. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jackson.
And it is time. Football is almost here, and we are so back. Auburn football kicks off in 26 days, and we're here to just kind of go over SEC Media Days, fall camp, look into the schedule a little bit, and go over some key players. We'll be here for a couple weeks before week 0 or week 1, and we're just really excited to get this going. But let's go ahead and hop in to SEC Media Days. And I kind of just lumped SEC Media Days and fall camp together, but I'll focus on SEC Media Days first. But the one thing I do want to talk about before we get into that, I forgot to mention this. I just want to talk about the identity and the just like how the team looks, because we haven't really talked since Golish got hired. Haven't really said anything on the podcast. Haven't been on the podcast since all of these changes. Obviously, mass exodus. Cam Coleman leaves. Eric Singleton leaves. The whole offense is gone. A good amount of the defense is gone. We still kept a lot of defensive guys, which is really good, but still a good amount of defense is gone. We are projected to start 15 transfers, and that's crazy. That could be really good, really bad, but most of the time it's really bad. But sometimes it's not. I mean, if we have the Signetti formula where we bring in a bunch of old guys, which we did, we have a lot of experience coming in. It's not SEC experience in most cases, but it's experience, and I think that's really valuable. But it's really scary because we are 10 out of the 11 starters on offense are transfers. That is insane. That is absolutely insane, and that has got to worry you if you're being real. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm actually really high on the defense. Earlier in the offseason, I was really worried about it. I'm not going to lie. I was really freaking worried. But we managed to keep a good amount of these guys. And then we bring in Andre Jordan Jr., who's supposed to be a really good piece, and Cody Sigler, who's supposed to be a really good, I think, he's D-tackle, right? So
yeah,
I think on the defensive side, it's going to be the same story. I think we're going to be really good, really damn good defense. DJ Durkin, obviously a really damn good coordinator. So I'm not worried about that. Again, it's me worried about the offense, and that's crazy because Alex Golish offensive-minded, but so have our last two head coaches been. So we're going to see how that works. Really, on SEC Media Days, the reason I dove into that, I don't really have a lot to say about Media Days. I think it was a little bit quieter than it's been before. I kind of think it's interesting how the media is trying to push the Summerall Golish rivalry, and Golish is leaning into it, so I like that. Also, the one thing that I did write down is how he was keying in on the O-line, and how he said when he first got there, he was just wanting to pull his hair out because it was so dysfunctionalized and just not in a good spot, and he thinks it's already in a better spot and they could be really good this year, which is really encouraging to hear, because as we both know and every fan knows, the reason we've been bad for a while is the O-line. That's one of the reasons, at least. Obviously quarterback play too, but O-line, that is the main thing that I don't remember last time we had a good O-line. So if we can have a decent O-line this year, that would be a big game changer. But as far as SEC Media Days, I didn't really have a lot to say because I really only watched the Auburn presser. I didn't watch the other ones. I was busy with finals and work. But there's not much to say. What I will say is at the beginning of the offseason, when we first hired Golish, I was a little bit worried, and I was thinking maybe we're not gonna be really good at all this year. My opinion has shifted a little bit, as it does every offseason, but I won't say too much. But what's your thoughts on media days?
I think a note on the returning starters thing. I heard this mentioned by an On3 Big Ten analyst, and I sort of agree with it. The whole returning starters, analytic or the viewpoint of it, I think is kind of in the days of old at this point, because you look at all these teams that have started relying on the transfer portal. A lot of Indiana's success came from people who transferred 2 years ago. Ole Miss's success, big transfer portal team. Miami, and it's like everyone talks about, oh my God, I've got 70% of the starters are returning. Well, how good were they? Our offense was not good. I didn't want them to return anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been nice to have the big names, but the big names didn't do anything anyways. And B, the people who are transferring in were either previous starters, or they've got a whole bunch of snaps played in as role players. And, maybe there's some metric out there that's talking about meaningful snaps that a player has had. I think that's a better way to view an incoming team than returning starters, because this whole new era is all about the portal, and, a lot to share the right identity, it messes up. But the idea and premise that just because you don't have your starters coming back, you're going to be a bad football team, I think is days of old. But moving into my media day notes, I thought, he pushed really hard that, the focus of those beginning few weeks was preparing and evaluating the players. And a lot of people talk about how we're a completely new team. 70 players from the previous team are on this team. And yes, we have 40 new who transferred in, but those were 40 high key players. The big goal that he was pushing was building that foundation and identity, which I think is very strong. He stayed away from being like, I want to win this amount of games, I want to have this performance metric check marked. But the main premise was building that foundation, which I think is massive, because if you look around the past few years, the organization has been terrible. The nonsense has been bad. And I'll get into it with the whole hotel thing, but think about Freeze, all the talk about him golfing, and that sort of nonsense era that we had with Harsin and the off-field stuff. We haven't been a focused program, and it boiled down, you saw it out on the field when it's like, why are we calling that on 3rd and short? Why are we calling that when we're on the last drive and we need this big play and we're having a QB run? Stuff like that. We've seen that he talked a lot about his offense being very matchup based, trying to get his key players in key positions rather than I'm going to run this play and this play. It's going to move very fast. I think last year he was second in the country in the tempo metric of, plays, completed in a certain amount of time. They were second. So it's supposed to move very fast in the season. But I love the fact that he's leaning into Auburn's identity as a run program and strong defense. With Freeze last year, you saw how much he hated to run the ball. I mean, I talked about it
with one of the best running backs in the SEC.
Quez gets 200 yards in the Kentucky game 2 years ago, and then the next week he gets 10 carries. And it's it pains him to run the ball. Going to the player side of media days, whenever they were asking questions, Byram, I thought he was very honest about the difference between his experience in the Florida game and other games, but he also showed confidence in it. He openly said, playing the SEC was different. All the aggregate of the players are better, they're faster, they're stronger, but I was also well prepared to do that. And moving into this, I've already seen it and I know what to expect. There was a funny anecdote. One of the people asked him about the Manning Passing Academy and had he talked to Marcel Reed or something. He was like, I didn't even go. So I was like, imagine being that interviewer or reporter asking him the question where it's you clearly don't know who you're talking to or the situation. You're just trying to ask a question. But he seems very confident, seems very grateful. Moving to Champ Anthony, I think the biggest thing is how versatile he is. I think he can play anywhere on the back end. He's very plug and play, which is very much needed depth-wise. If we have someone go down, he can go to a different side. He talked about New Boy Fagans, Eric Winter, Blake Woodby, all taking leaps as true sophomores because they came in the freshmen, were forced to play, and then now, whenever they've had time to grow, we can actually see the growth. Another cool thing about him was his nickname, the Pirate, because he says he takes he does what he wants, and he takes what he wants. So I'm expecting some picks out there in the upcoming season, but. Another point he honed in on is how tight this team is, how together they are. And, hanging out with everybody, going to people's houses and stuff like that. I think that's something we've missed out on a lot. I feel like last year it was a bunch of mercenaries. And yes, they were very good mercenaries, but there wasn't a lot of connection or loyalty, or you would have seen more people stay. And I feel like that had gone to the wayside with Freeze, and Freeze was all about trying to find all this talent, but I mean the talent didn't identify with Auburn. They didn't meld well with Auburn. Alex McPherson came and talked. I think the big thing that I pulled from that was he had hit a 60-yarder the day before he left, and I was like, thank God we might have our depth back there, because he was a great kicker.
He hit a 50-yarder in the A-Day game.
Yeah, I mean, 30 and in, we were solid last year, but he didn't have the leg strength. He's coming back from his sickness, and now I feel like that's back. My fall cam notes, obviously, he talked about staying in the hotel, taking away the car keys, no girlfriends, big no nonsense, no distractions. And I noticed some people were trying to hate on that. And there's no, there was an Alabama reporter who was like, oh, they're staying at, this spa resort that families go for vacations. Like, what are you talking about? A, have you seen the facility, like a college football facility, especially an SEC facility? The boochiness is already there. They've got spa rooms, they've got TVs in every room. And by the way, Georgia does the same thing. And so that's sort of the thing where I point to Hugh Freeze golfing last year, where I think there's a lot of nonsense in that, and a lot of things that were allowed, that the players were allowed to do, that we're not getting now because we're trying to focus in on what's coming. Another thing is Omar Mapson's going crazy. I think he's definitely RB2. It's definitely what it sounds like. He's got an elite pass protection, which I feel like we faulted at last year. We couldn't protect anybody. It started with the O-line, but it reached into the running backs. I feel like we didn't have the guy who's going to step up and take that hit. Another thing, Gavin Jenkins at cornerback has been playing incredible. He's rotating with the one group ahead of Dre Jordan, which I think was really big. I didn't really expect that. I thought Andre Jordan would probably be the main guy, and now we've got Gavin Jenkins stepping up. But on the wide receiver side, I think Chase Nimrod, Jeremiah Kroger, they've had massive jumps. They look shifty and fast. Big thing with Chase is he's very versatile, so he can play at any of those spots if someone goes down. But a lot of people were talking about Deshaun Spencer, true freshman, winning fall camp. And so if there's ways to get him out there and have big plays, where he's going to find a way to do it, because Golich is very playmaker oriented. He's going to call an offense in a way to get the guys out there who can make those plays, rather than just being like, let's just throw it deep, please someone catch it, and I think it's a good look forward.
I am really excited about Deshaun Spencer. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I think this is one of my guys that I'm just going to follow. To be honest, I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have this year.
Yeah.
But overall, I hope he becomes a really good player, and I think he has the ability to. Champ Anthony, you talked about him, a really great player, and I'm really excited for him. I don't have him in my impact players. I really want to, but a big issue with me is the injury problem, and that's 2 seasons in a row
years,
where he's
2
gotten
broken
injured.
legs.
Yeah, and he was out early in both. So if maybe we have him late in the season last year, maybe we win a couple more games. I mean, I'm not saying one corner or one safety changes the outcome, because our defense was still playing amazing, but stay healthy, please. Yes, also about Nimrod, I've heard Nimrod could be wide receiver 1 from. Yeah, that's what people that are watching the practices saying. I try not to focus on that too much, because it seems like we hear stuff like that every year. I remember whenever Joey Gatewood was supposed to be the next great Auburn quarterback. He was QB3, never saw the field.
TJ Finley was beating Bo Nix at practice.
TJ Finley was the best practice player of all time. There's been multiple. Who was it last year where Shane Hooks, great practice player. There was somebody last year, some receiver
Never saw the field.
that never saw the field. I think he was a freshman, to be fair, and he's on the team still. I can't think of his name, and he's not going to get reps this year anyway. But still, I'm really excited. I'm excited to see how Keyshawn Singleton is going to be. I haven't heard much from him, which is weird. Bryce Kane, it seems like they put on a shelf, so that kind of worries me. But maybe he's just not it.
What I've heard is, it's very. That was one of the rooms that I was worried about, was wide receiver room. I feel like, especially if you're hobbling all these G6 guys together, it's like, how many of them are going to take the next level? I don't worry about, like, people always talk about, Byron, are you going to step up and get to the next level? I feel like that's not really a big quarterback question. I think quarterbacks can upgrade or change levels pretty well. I mean, look at Trinidad, look at Cam Ward, look at what's his name from at Oklahoma,
Mateer.
I think it's a little bit easier for quarterbacks. With wide receivers, it's different because you're one-on-one with a guy who is directly putting his hands on you, directly trying to match your speed. And SEC, there's differences. So I was a little bit worried about the room. I'm not so now, because people are so high on, guys like Singleton, guys like Nimrod, guys like Neptune. There's a lot of talk about Jeremiah Kroger, who I mentioned. He's supposed to be wide receiver 2 right now. But I think the thing that I heard about Bryce Kane is he's got speed, but the development hasn't just been there, which I see that as signs of our old guards, not being good at developing players, not being able to match players, which showed on the field. So, I mean, there's a place where, if a couple of people go down, he can step in, and maybe he's just a playmaker somewhere. But I don't know. I think he needs a year before he steps into that role.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another thing I put down, Jeremiah Cobb apparently has gained 15 pounds this offseason. So that's a little scary for opposing defenses. You're putting this guy is really shifty and, mainly characterized as quick, and you're putting 15 pounds on him, and it's probably a lot of muscle. So watch out, SEC defenses. Another thing that I saw the other day was apparently they're having SEC refs at every practice, not just scrimmages, but practices, which is really cool. And Alex Hollis basically said he wanted everybody to be in the right flow of stuff, like they're in a game, which I think is really cool. So,
that helps because, I mean, you can see what you can get away with. You can see what you need to harp on. Like the amount of crap false starts and holding calls that we would get, especially in game time decision plays that we got last year, was absurd, and it made you want to rip your hair out. So if them having SEC refs there helps that at all, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So far, fall camp has been somewhat telling, but we're really excited to see what's going on the field. I think we'll hop into our impact players list. We'll go 5-1 and we'll snake it. I'll start with my 5. Now, it could have been any of the DBs. It could have been someone like Sylvester Smith, big hitter. Could have been someone.
Wait, you don't want to start off with honorable mention?
Oh shoot, I had an honorable mention. You're so right. And this is gonna be crazy. My honorable mention is gonna be Jeremiah Cobb. So I put / running back room in general. Obviously, Omar Madison, Nakai Davenport, Bryson Washington, Alvin Henderson. There's someone else. I can't remember his name. Guy from the group, another group of 6, but I think he's going to be deep in the rotation. Anyways, the reason I don't have him in my top 5 is, and this is nothing against Jeremiah Cobb. I was just praising him. I think the way that this team has been set up, basically ever since I've been alive, is the running back is going to be good, and the running back is set up in a good situation where they are going to be able to grind out yards and really have just a field day. Even in Freeze's offenses, he didn't like running the ball, but guess what? The running back still got theirs because it's just the way Auburn was set up. And if we're talking about impact / importance, I have 5 guys that I think are more impactful. I'm not saying he's not one of the 5 best players on the team, because he is, but he's not this year, especially with how deep the running back room is. There's going to be a lot of people subbing in and out. It's going to be a running back by committee. I think now we're going to give Jeremiah Cobb the ball, and he's going to get it a lot. But I don't know if he'll have the impact that these guys have. So I'll go to my number 5. And this could be also another surprising one. I have Caleb Harris. Really big on him coming back this year. I've really been really big on him ever since he got to Auburn. Again, like I said, I could have gone with Rashawn Pleasant, could have gone with Champ Anthony, could have gone with Eric. What's his name?
Winters.
Eric Winters or Andre Jordan. Obviously, Andre Jordan getting a lot of love from people. He's supposed to be a really good transfer. I don't know much about it, but I'm gonna side with people. But basically, this is a secondary pick, but I went with Caleb Harris, 3rd year in the system. I think he's the most seniorized person there. I've been a big fan ever since he got here. He hasn't had necessarily a breakout year yet. He's had a forced fumble and a pick in 2 years. But also, you really don't know much about him, and that's a good thing for DB. He's not getting burnt a lot. But I predicted a breakout year in his 3rd year. I'm really excited to see what he can bring to the table, and I think it's going to be good. The main thing is just he's the oldest DB in there besides Rashawn Pleasant, but he has more time than Rashawn Pleasant in Durkin's system. So that's my 5. So you can go to your.
Well, honorable mention, I've got Cody Sigler at defensive tackle. I think there's so many guys that I want to talk about. So, like, if you talk about, like, last year, he's in there for me. But, like, I think it's very crucial to have a defensive tackle that not only can make plays, get in, block holes, but take away offensive linemen off our backers. Because, I've got a backer in here, too, that I'm going to mention. But being able to make them available to just go out there, play football, and snag an interception, make a TFL or, fill a gap is great. And it starts with the defensive tackles filling up either holes or taking offensive linemen before they can get to the second level, which is, if you're trying to have a great run game, it's first block with the D tackle and then move up to the linebacker. So if we can hold those guys on our D line, it provides so much room for our linebackers to make moves. And I think that starts with Cody Sigler. My number 5 spot, I've got a DB as well. I've got Gavin Jenkins, because the amount of hype that's coming out of there was something that really surprised me. And it could just be all, fugazi, lights on, all of it goes out the window. But the amount of mobility that he has, the speed he has right there to the touch, the acceleration is going to be crucial, especially, when you're facing these SEC wide receivers. I think that he has the ability to change a game with one arm, going up and grabbing something, which we had a good amount of last year. I mean, the only way we were scoring points was with our defense, or, changing, getting a short field with an interception. And I think that starts with Gavin Jenkins.
Okay. I like it. My number 4 is going to be Jared Smith. Really excited for this guy. And this is going to be a hot take because we've had a lot of good defensive linemen in the past 10 years, but this is probably the most excited I am for a defensive lineman or an edge since Marlon Davidson or Jeff Holland, which is 2017-ish. That's about 10 years ago. And if you were watching Auburn football 10 years ago, that's a massive compliment. Jeff Holland, had one of the best years at edge for Auburn. Marlon Davidson, also a great edge. So I think he has the ability to be a caliber player up to that. Obviously had the pick 6 in the A-Day game. I don't know if it got called a pick 6, but he had the pick, which is really impressive. He's a sophomore. I'm pretty sure he's a sophomore. I don't know if he's a true sophomore, or I think he's a true sophomore, but he didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year, but I think he's gonna get a lot this year, and I just think he's gonna be a big game changer. Moving into my 3, I have Cole Best. Really, really important. I mean, come on, the center. He's the quarterback of the O-line. Been with Byron Brown for the past 4 years. If he's good, this is the definition of an impact player. When's the last time we had a player like this? I know Connor Lew. Okay, Connor Lew was good, but if we can, the thing about Connor Lew, I feel like the O-line still never meshed, and that's part of the role of the center is to be able to have everybody do their job. It's quarterback of the O-line, like I said, and there's no way he doesn't have a great connection with Byram. That was paramount to bring him in, and I think he's going to make a huge impact. Now, if this is another Xavier Chaplin situation where we bring in a supposed to be an amazing offensive lineman,
pay him millions of dollars.
I'm going to be sad. I just wanted to put that. So,
yeah, I mean, that's funny. You bring him up. He's my number 4. I got Cole Best there too. Just because, I mean, you look at, obviously the overarching problem with Auburn past 3 years has been offensive play. And the biggest crux in that has been our O-line. I mean, think of the sack numbers. Think of, how we've always tried to go after a mobile quarterback. And even whenever we do, we still run into problems with the pocket breaking down. And like you said, it starts with the O-line. It starts with the head caller, head leader at center, being able to meld with those guys. And Connor Lew, I think he was a great center. He was phenomenal his junior year. I think the sophomore year, there was a little bit of a let up. Maybe there's some injuries or maybe there was issues with, players sort of understanding what's going on with Freeze and how this could be, the end of something. And maybe there's lackluster connections in play. But I didn't feel like we had any meld there. And we had a lot of guys moving around for the first few weeks. We had some injuries. So it was like we never got a cohesive O-line that worked together. And that's one of the biggest things. That's one of the things that Alex Golsh has harped on. He wants to build O-linemen coming in as freshmen so they can establish a connection not only with their coach, but with their players alongside them as they develop. And so whenever they get to their junior year, you have these monsters who are not only big, strong, fast, but move in unison. And I think the start of that is having a connection guy like Cole Best who understands what the QB behind him is doing, understands what the coach is doing, and can not only get his O-line together in that thought process and show them how these things are, how the plays are connected, why we're doing this movement, why we're doing this shift, but also teach the younger guys. And so his effect could be either just this season or it could go on for future seasons if he establishes that connection with the younger guys. And so I think he is a guy who can do that. I think the connection that he has between his player and his play caller is going to be massive, and that's why he's my number 4 spot. At my number 3 spot, I've got Elijah Melendez. I'm very high on this guy. I understand we've got Xavier Atkins, and as I go through my list, you're going to be like, you mentioned Elijah and not Xavier, and that's just because Xavier got a lot of hype last year, and he's going to be a key point in all future offenses as they, start game planning against him. He's going to be a focus. Elijah Melendez is just a different guy. Whenever I first saw him, he's a massive, built, yoked guy. So you think, oh, he's a thumper back. He's going to go fill a gap. He's going to go for the TFL and bring a guy down. But one of the big notes out of fall camp so far is A, how fast he is, and B, his knowledge of routes, knowing when that wide receiver is going to break, knowing what's coming my way. If I've got 2 over, or if I've got 3 over here, one's probably going deep, one might do a short, one's probably coming to me, or 2's coming to me. And his ability to either disrupt a pass or get ahead of a pass and get an interception has been massive. He's had quite a few of them in the fall. And I think that understanding of how that can work, especially now that, a lot of teams are going RPO or pass forward offenses, having a linebacker out there who is, just a bigger cornerback is going to be massive. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's got a few interceptions at the end of the year.
All right, I like it. Let's head to my number 2 is Byron Brown. He was always gonna be top 2 for me. If we're talking about importance, really, you could put any QB of any Auburn team in top 5 importance or impact players. But this guy is the definition of an impact player. 6'3", 235. People like to talk about, is it going to translate? 6'3", 225 translates anywhere.
Yeah.
So, again, SEC defenses might want to watch out. I know Cody Burns said the other day, he was asked I think it was at Media Days, he was asked how it's going to translate, how he's going to translate into the SEC play. And I think he was basically like, well, we went into Florida. We went into the swamp last year and got a win. We have competed with these SEC teams, and I think he is ready. That really gets me hyped, and that gets me pumped for everything. Just really think he has a really potential to be one of probably the best quarterback we've had since, and not Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham. He's been in this system for 4 or 5 years. He knows the ins and outs of it. His receivers know the ins and outs of it. His center knows it. Man, I mean, if you talk about the ceiling of this team could be high, the ceiling of this offense could be high. It's just really scary to believe into. But man, it's just the size. The size gets me. We haven't had a sized quarterback like this since, I'll say it, Cam Newton. So it's going to be exciting to see. Now, obviously, with his throwing motion, people have been making fun of that, which whatever. We'll see how it works out in the field. He didn't play amazingly in the A-Day game. We didn't have a podcast on that, but he objectively played bad. But I'm not worried about it. I think it's more of he's a mobile quarterback, and it's really hard to get things going as a mobile quarterback in a game where there's no contact on the quarterback and you can't really scramble around and stuff like that. So really, I think he's going to be the best quarterback we've had since Jarrett Stidham, because I don't know who was after Jarrett Stidham. He's dead to me. Anyways, my number one is Xavier Atkins. I think Elijah Melendez is a good pick, but I'm going to just go with Xavier Atkins. Again, the most seniorized person in that linebacking group. The linebacking group, by the way, is the best on the team, in my opinion. I mean, you're talking about how deep it is with Bryce Dees. I don't know how to say his last name. Dees. DeMarcus Riddick and Elijah Melendez. Or is it? Yeah, it's Mendelez. Anyways.
Melendez.
For some reason, I have Mendelez in here. Anyways. But if we're talking about impact, come on. This guy had 2 forced fumbles and an interception last year with 9 sacks, and he led the league in tackles for loss. That is the definition of an impact player, and I expect him to continue it this year. I do see what you're saying, where offenses will key in on him, but there are certain players, there's NFL-type players that you can game plan all you want for them, and they're still going to make an impact. That's Xavier Atkins, and I expect him to be that. I expect him to be the best player on the team. And look, I'm not saying I can't get disappointed. I've had players like this going into seasons where I expected them to be amazing and they had to drop off. But right now I'm expecting Xavier Atkins to be the best player on the team, be the best player on the defense. And again, like you said, you wouldn't be surprised if what's his face had some picks. This guy's an inside linebacker and had a pick last year. I'm not going to rule it out for him. So that's my number one.
Yeah, at number 2, I've got Chase Nimrod. I wanted to throw a wide receiver in here because obviously, last year we were inept on offense, and it was just brutal to watch. And one of the biggest parts of that was our wide receivers couldn't get separation. No matter who, we've got Cam Coleman out there who can't catch a break, and it caused a lot of problems. We struggled with every play was a massive struggle just to get a few yards. And I think the biggest impact that can change as comparison to last year is having dynamic wide receivers who can get separation and not just run deep and catch a deep ball or catch a fade in the end zone, but cross in the middle and get separation there. Golish likes a lot of wide choice, or he runs a wide choice offense, so being able to be smart enough to connect which route's going to be open and which route the DB's hanging on is massive, and I think that comes from Chase Nimrod. He's incredibly fast. He's incredibly versatile, so he's plug and play at whatever position we need him to. If we're getting a lot of heat on our edge wide receivers, put him in slot. Let him run a fade, or let him run a slant or a little curl or something like that, and I think he provides the speed and the acceleration to get space, which is going to be crucial in making those third downs easier, making those second downs easier, getting in once we're in the red zone, converting those to touchdowns instead of field goals. It's going to be massive, and he's a big key in that. My number one, we all knew was coming, Byron Brown. Like you said, the archetype that he provides opens up the entire offense. And, 3,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher. There's no one who had a season like that. And like I said before, I think we're talking about what translates. QBs translate very well in my eyes because you're playing the same game and you're not necessarily going up against a bigger body. You're out there just making decisions. And he's the type of guy who can. And yeah, the A-Day game wasn't the best performance. But like you said, he couldn't run in that game. And even whenever they're coming back to sack him, they're calling him down way early. And I'm like, Byron's not going down to that. Byron's not going down to a hand grip tackle. I don't care who you are. You got to, lock in your feet just to bring him down the guy and pray to the Lord that he trips. He's that type of guy. I think his passes work well on improvisation. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
He's a great improv player, and A-Day games take that out of it, because you can't move around. It's harder to roll out and, open up the field. And so with his running game added to it, it creates a whole another level. And also I feel like the wide receivers, that we had out there, there wasn't a lot of connection between them just yet. And the 1, 2, and 3 wide receivers hadn't been decided. And so as we go through fall camp and those things have started to get decided, the connection gets better. He's going to know where that guy stops. He's going to know where that guy breaks, where this guy can get separation. And that elevates the pass game extremely. Those 3,000 yards came for a reason, and it's going to show up. So I think being able to have a quarterback with that build, but also bringing his head coach and play caller and his, a good chunk of the O-line with him, it's going to be massive because he's not learning anything new. He's not trying to fit into a new system and change how he plays football. He's going in and they have the same game plan. Yeah, you've got new pieces a part of it, but it's going to be the same wide choice that they've played. But I think at worst, he's an average guy. And with our run game that we have and the defense we have, we're still in every game. I mean, look at last year and the ineptness. I mean, 6 games were lost by 1 score. And the 7th was the Georgia game, which we had a lead in, So it's like we just need a player who can make plays whenever we need to and not fall flat whenever things start getting tough or things start getting loud. And I think he is definitely that guy.
And by the way, we both mentioned a bad A-Day game performance. You want to know who else had a bad A-Day game? This guy right here. I don't know how my hand works. Cam Newton. I'm not comparing him to Cam Newton. I'm just saying another mobile guy that had a bad game. Elephant in the room, I didn't have any receivers in my list. I want to touch on that real quick. That is definitely the room I'm most worried about still. For stuff that you've highlighted, it's a bunch of group of 6 guys that we're bringing in, and I'm not saying they can't be good. And obviously, we've heard a lot of good things about Nimrod, and we've heard a lot of good things about Kroger, and a lot of good things about Keyshawn Singleton, who I think those 3 guys can be game changers. But I will say I'll be up front about it that I'm really worried about that group. That's probably the most worried I am about, or most worried position group I am worried about. I said that really weird, but so yeah. And the way we're both talking, you might think that we think that Auburn's going to be really good this year. We're really hyping them up. So let's go ahead and get into the schedule prediction. I'm going to start off. We'll start off with Baylor and Southern Miss. I got us winning in Mercedes-Benz against Baylor. I'm not nearly as worried about this game as I was last year. If you were a listener last year, you know how worried I was, and he was, about this game for how really big, how impactful it could be. And yes, a loss could be really impactful, but I realized last year we realized that the win wasn't very impactful, and I don't think a win would be impactful here. And I think we're just better than them. You got DJ Lagway coming in. the pick machine. Now it is going to be interesting to see how Baylor's system, who they really kept with DJ Lagway into that system, can they slow down the turnovers and make him more focused? Probably, because Sawyer Robertson was one of the best quarterbacks in college football last year, and it could have been partly due to the system, and he still threw all over us. But I think it's going to be even less of that. I think Auburn's a 7-point favorite. I don't want to get too much into it because we're going to talk about that in like 2 weeks. We're going to go in depth, but I got Auburn winning that game. I think we're just better. And then the home opener, I got us beating Southern Miss, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you look at the team that we had last year, and we go in and win by, like 20 points, run all over them. Jackson Arnold had a fantastic game. I'm not super worried about it.
Arnold.
Yeah, I think Dave Aranda's got other problems that he's got to worry about. I think there's a lot of attention focused on things that are outside of, on-field play for them right now. So them opening against us is just a brutal pull for them. I think our defense is going to sort of hold this game out for us no matter what. If we're struggling to get things, condensed and solidified on offense, our defense is going to hold out. I think just player on player, we've got an extremely talented defense. And so, I mean, yes, it's a neutral site game, but it's going to be majority Auburn fans there. That adds to it. But I just look to last year and I see the team that we had and the performance we put on, and we're a better team this year. Maybe not in the blue chip ratio, but we are overall a better team. Our defense is going to hold out for us either way, but I do think Byron Brown gets a little active and people are going to start changing how they talk about it, which, I mean, everyone started talking about, that weird throwing motion after he committed to Auburn. Before nobody mentioned it. As if that throwing motion didn't get him 3,000 yards last year, didn't win against Florida. It only happens after they commit to Auburn, of course. But yeah. I think we get a W there. And then home opener against Southern Miss. It's going to be great to see those third-string players. We're going to get that win too.
All right. And then the big one, I think, arguably the second biggest game of the season. I probably have it about number 3. Florida coming into town. Obviously, you got the manufactured Summerall versus Goalish rivalry, which might turn into a real thing. A lot of storylines here, and including Eric Singleton's return to Jordan Hare, who, by the way, has been having a good fall camp from what I've heard. So good for him, I guess. I don't like him. But I think team-wise, Auburn and Florida are on a level playing field this year. As I listen around to a bunch of analysts and really everybody around college football, everyone's still big Summerall guys. I guess he hasn't had his first season yet, so why would they change their mind? But a lot of people are big Summerall people, and they think that he can be good and good quick. I heard somebody say he thinks Florida's floor is 8-4. I think you're a little crazy. I don't think they're going to be that good. Like I said, I think they're going to be on the level of us, but they don't really play anybody before coming into Jordan Hare. It's their first away game. I think you got Aaron Philo coming in from Georgia Tech. I could see Florida winning this game, but we are going to be favored in this game, and we should win this game. And hopefully we have a coach now that wins those type of games. I think it's going to be close because maybe we could get a little rivalry going, like I said. But it's a night game, and it's our only night SEC game, and I hope we take advantage of it, and I think we do. So I think Auburn starts 3-0, and the fan base is feeling a little good. Vandy then comes into town. We get another win. I think are we really going to lose to Vandy 3 years in a row? No, we're not. And you can clip this all you want. You don't have Diego anymore. You got a true freshman coming in. This is also their first SEC road game. Jared Curtis, first SEC road game, coming into Jordan Hare. Now, I think it is 11 a.m. kickoff, or maybe it's 2:30. But still, it's Jordan Hare, and everyone knows it's haunted. Nick Saban even said it. So, I know Goalish didn't coach those teams, but if I'm Goalish, I'm saying, hey, to the guys that are still here from last year and 2 years ago, you've lost to this team 3 times in a row. That's embarrassing. This is Vanderbilt and this is Auburn. We need to beat the crap out of them, and I don't think we're going to beat the crap out of them. I hope we do, but I think we get that win too. I think we start 4-0. So,
yeah. Florida coming in, I've got us penciled in as a win right now. I think that Aaron Philo is going to have a lot of rust on him. I mean, I think he's a third-year player right now, but he's a pick guy. He's thrown, I think, 3 picks in the few games that he's played in. I think that he doesn't really match well with Florida's system right now. I think the defense is going to be very worrying, which is why I'm happy we're opening against Baylor, because we're going to have some, Power 4. We're going to have a Power 4 game to sort of get our ducks in a row, get things aligned, and Florida doesn't have that. So they don't have a game that they can shake off the rust against a talented opponent, see where the weaknesses are. We can do that. We know where we're going to struggle and where we need to fix things before that game comes. Obviously, it's in Auburn. I think that's going to be a big factor right now, especially with the types of players that are coming in. It's just Florida's a very talented team. So things can go south. It wouldn't be the biggest surprise if they did, but I don't have belief in Aaron Philo. I think their O-line has quite a few questions, and with the D-line and linebackers that we're bringing in, we're going to make him a non-factor. So I think they're going to struggle for points against us, and the playmakers that we have at quarterback and at running back will ultimately push us over the hump and get that W. Moving to Vanderbilt, I think they've lost a lot of players. I mean, Jared Curtis coming in as a true freshman and trying to learn how to play football against our defense at Auburn is going to be an insurmountable obstacle for him. And I see Vandy as that type of team that, takes 3 years, develops, a roster, has a great year, and then they've got to start over. And that's what I see with this team. I just think with the talent they lost, coming in, starting a true freshman against a defense that I think is in the top SEC is going to be a ridiculous place for him to learn the ins and outs of his offense, because he's not going to be sure in how that offense runs. He's learning it all right then and there. He just got through spring practice and starting fall camp, and it's just not enough time to prepare against a team like Auburn's defense. I think he may have a couple flashes in the pan where he hits a big ball or gets a big touchdown, but overall we're going to catch him sleeping, and he's going to see a wide receiver that's open, that's got either Xavier or Elijah Melendez lurking behind it, and all it takes is 2 plays. It's going to be a very heated game, especially with the noise coming into it, and I think Summerall is more of a person who's going to listen to that noise and maybe use it to fuel, maybe not, but it's going to be a factor. I think Alex Golesh pushes all that to the side. I mean, you see it with the fall camp right now, going to the hotel, removing all the nonsense and distractions. I think Summerall is the type of guy who's going to be listening to the distractions a little bit, and it's going to show in the game.
All right. So we both have Auburn starting 4-0, which would be really good. Because I'll say right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we lose to Florida. I would be surprised if we lose to Vandy, even though we lost 3 years in a row. So let's get into at Tennessee, which we will both be at this game. I think you take your first loss here, Auburn's first true road game here, going into Knoxville, Rocky Top, against a Tennessee team that I think is going to be a lot better than people think they're going to be. I think their quarterback battle is between 2 freshmen, which is really concerning for them. But as far as Josh Heupel and getting quarterbacks ready, I'm not worried about that, because we saw what he did with Joey Aguilar, a below-average quarterback, made him arguably a good quarterback. And I just really like what Josh Heupel has been doing there at Tennessee. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year, but I think they're going to be pretty good. And going into a really good environment and beating a pretty good team is going to be hard, especially for a first-year coach in Alex Golesh. So give me a loss at Tennessee. Then you have a bye week, and then you go at Georgia. They own us. We haven't won in Athens since 2005. Gunnar Stockton is having another year under his belt. I'm not to get too much into it, because we'll talk about this next podcast. I do think Georgia might be a tad bit overrated in that public eye, but they're still Georgia, and they're still a Kirby Smart coach team, and they still own us. Honestly, they could be 3-9 and they'd probably beat us because their name is Georgia. And I don't see us breaking the streak with the first-year coach in Athens. It's just not going to happen. It's so sad that I have no faith in that, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, the Tennessee game, the at Neyland, I think is going to hurt us a lot. And then we've got the Georgia game next. So, there's a lot of weight on those prep weeks because you're going to be probably double prepping. And, with those two games back-to-back, it's going to – or with the bye game mixed in, it's going to put a lot of hurt on our preparation. I think right now George McIntyre is supposed to be winning the job. He's a redshirt freshman, so he's had a year in the system. He's had a year with Josh, and like you said, Josh can make anybody good. He's the Lane Kiffin of Tennessee right now, and so I think that far into the season, George McIntyre is gonna have some preparation underneath him. He's gonna have he's gonna know the areas of the offense where he can find success, and it's gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be very loud. I just don't think Josh Heupel is going to let a previous OC get the better of him. I think this is a big game for Tennessee, and he's going to put a lot of effort into it. And not that we're not, but I mean, Josh Heupel is going to need this game, and he knows what Alex Golesh likes to call. He knows how he likes to operate on offense, and it's going to hurt us here. I've got that as a loss as well. Then going into Georgia, I'm in complete agreements. I mean, if we're going to win a big game, it's not going to be at Georgia, especially being there. Maybe if it was at home, I'd feel differently about it. But this is when those does it translate questions really hurt, because Kirby knows how to make those things matter a lot. He knows how to put that effect where he knows where these G6 guys are going to struggle. He knows how to catch them off guard, in this new environment. And he's going to be the one that calls a masterpiece. Because I don't care what the game looks like in third quarter. Don't count him out till he's out. And Gunnar Stockton, I'm very high on. I think he has the ability to be a top quarterback in the SEC this year, and he's here to show it. And playing against a guy that's that dynamic and can put the ball where he needs to. He can sit back in a roll call or a play caller mode and dictate the offense, and then whenever he needs to step up, that's going to be very worrying. I think we have some moments where we can get some licks in, but overall we're losing that game.
Yep, I agree. So that would be 2 losses in a row. So far we are in total agreement, 4-2. Let's head to LSU at home. I'm glad this game is coming back. Really love this game. I'd call it the Tiger Bowl. I actually think we have a really good chance in this game. And there is a scenario where we can win this game. Obviously, Lane Kiffin coming in with all the drama, bringing in his all-offensive staff, got Sam Levitt at quarterback. I think LSU is going to be a little bit better than people are saying this year. I think people aren't giving Lane Kiffin enough credit. I think a lot of people have them around the 8-4 range. I think I got them about a game higher than that. I don't think they're going to be world beaters. They have a really hard schedule, but I think they're going to be pretty decent. And it sounds like I'm doing sayings for you. Let me talk about the game. Like I said, I think we have a really decent chance in this game. But I think Lane Kiffin, one of the best offensive minds in the country. I would say the best offensive mind in the country. He has something for Auburn. Like he doesn't like us, and he likes beating us. And I think I'm not gonna say it's gonna be personal because obviously LSU Ole Miss that's gonna be the personal game. But I don't know. I think Golesh is going to be good for us, but it's his first year. A lot of these losses are going to be chalked up. Hey, it's your first year, and it's sad that we can't be like kind of upset about it. I just don't think you can win some of these big games, and I don't think you can get LSU. I think you can, sorry, but I don't think you will. So I think you lose 3 in a row here, and then you go to Ole Miss, and I think you could pull off the upset at Ole Miss, which would be arguably the biggest win of the year. And it's because this is the definition of a trap game for Ole Miss. We are sandwiched in between Texas and Georgia. They have Texas and then Georgia right after. And they have us in between. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not high on Pete Golding as a coach. I know they brought back Trinidad. I know they brought back Keywan Lacey. I know they dominated the portal. They look really good roster-wise. But they lost pretty much that whole offensive staff except Joe Judge, who I think maybe calling plays now. I don't know if he is, but I know he's the quarterback coach still on the staff. How much is it going to translate this year? I put a lot of their success in the past 5 years on Lane Kiffin, and I'm not trying to be Lane Kiffin Glazer here 2 weeks or 2 games in a row, but the reason they were in that situation was because of Lane Kiffin. I think Ole Miss fans need to understand that. Though the playoff games that they won were when the whole offense staff was still on the game or still in on the coaching staff. They left after the playoff. So you still had Lane Kiffin's system. So whenever y'all say, oh, well, Pete Golding won 2 playoff games or whatever, well, okay, I'll give it to him. But the reason he won was because Lane Kiffin got in there. I will die on this hill. But anyways, I think Ole Miss will be decent this year. I just don't think they're going to be SEC championship good like some people are saying. I don't even think they might not even make the playoff. But the fact that they are sandwiched between Texas and Georgia for them, there's no way they are looking at that where they're game planning for Texas and they come out, I think, lose to Texas. And there's no way they're saying, oh, we've got to get ready for Auburn. They got Georgia the very next week. This is a win for Auburn, and it's kind of apparent to me. I mean, not apparent, but like it's like the prime time spot for Auburn to get a win here. So I got Auburn winning. So that would be, what would that be? 4-4? No, 4-3.
Yeah, LSU coming to town, I'm very scared for that. I think LSU I think they won the transfer portal. They pulled in a bunch of talent. I'm actually not that high on Sam Leavitt. I think he's probably still going to have a little bit of an interception problem. If he went anywhere else,
I agree.
If he went anywhere else, I'd be very down on him. But of course, he has Lane Kiffin as his quarterback, and Lane Kiffin can do a whole lot with a little, So he's going to find ways around Sam Leavitt's problems. Like you said, Lane knows how to get the better of us in more ways than one, and I think it shows here. I think we lose this game just because the amount of talent is going to overrule at some point, and I think it overrules here. I think we're going to have quite a few struggle moments in this game. And at this point, everyone's going to have seen, what we can do with Byron Brown, and they're going to know the weaknesses as well. And Lane Kiffin is a masterclass at finding weaknesses in a defense. And there may not be very many, but he'll find it on ours. Moving to Ole Miss game, I also have this game as a win. So, these are probably about to be the exact same record predictions. But I completely agree. I don't think you lose Lane Kiffin and your play caller and be better the next year. I think the thing that they have going for them is Trinidad and Keywan Lacey, and I would like to say that they're going to be as good, but I think there could be a drop off here. I think Lane Kiffin is a master at finding holes in the passing game, getting wide receivers in places that are completely open. And when you lose the guy who does that, it's not like you can call him up and be like, so where do you think we should have this route moved to? He's not doing that, Exactly. And I think the offense is going to suffer even with those players. Look at last year and the amount of talent we had on offense, and we couldn't do anything because we didn't have the right play caller, and it was insufferable to watch. So I think Ole Miss is going to have those struggles. Like you said, it's a trap game for them. I think they could also have 3 or 4 losses at that point, just because their schedule is so front half heavy. And whenever you get to that point, your players start asking the question, how much is this worth it? Do I really want to keep buying in? Especially if you're built on the backs of transfer guys who are kind of like mercenaries and don't necessarily have that loyalty to the program. They start thinking, all right, I got to be ready next year. Is the pain and the hits that I'm taking right now worth it? I think they could start running into those types of problems, just because I don't think Pete Golden is the guy for the future there. And players are the first one to realize that. And I don't see a big establishment between him making connections with the players to keep them motivated. And I think that bites him here. So I've got us winning.
Yeah, that's crazy because I really thought we were going to disagree on that, but
So did
I
I.
completely agree. I think some Ole Miss fans are a little delusional with Pete Golding. By the way, no head coaching experience. So there, a lot of people, they're coping by saying he's the better option than Lane Kiffin, and I laugh at that. But I don't
Yeah,
know,
there's
prove
no
me
way.
wrong.
I mean, there's that makes no sense. I mean, they're all like, "Oh, look at the playoff games he won. Who'd he beat? Who did he beat?"
Yeah, exactly. So let's go. Well, we'll do Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Samford all three together. I got a win against Arkansas. We beat them in our sorriest years. Now I know they beat us a couple years ago with Harsin. I think they've beat us twice recently, actually. But most of the time we beat this team. And spoiler alert for next pod, this is my worst team in the SEC this year. They brought in Silverfield. Not really exciting at all. I don't like the hire at all. I don't like the direction they're going, so I think this is a win. And it's in Jordan here. Come on. At Mississippi State, this is where it gets interesting. This is a very scary game for Auburn. It's a slowly progressing Mississippi State team. They're getting better every year under Levy. Obviously, gave a few teams a couple scares last year against Tennessee, and where they really lit it up on offense. And if we get caught sleeping, then that could be a big problem. Generally speaking, an average team will beat a team they're not supposed to beat and lose to a team they're not supposed to lose. I think Ole Miss is the team that you're not supposed to beat, that you beat. I think you lose to Mississippi State, and I don't think you're supposed to, but I think you do. I think you get caught napping, and I'll spoil it for you. I don't think we're going to be worse than Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State is going to be lower than us in standings, but I think they pop us when we're not watching. So I think that's a loss, and a lot of people are going to be like, what? I'm like, I had to put something there with us beating Ole Miss, but I think that seriously could be like I am genuinely believing that we will lose to Arkansas, Mississippi State, or Vandy. I think we lose one of those games, and I pick Mississippi State, and then I think we'll beat Samford, obviously.
Yeah, I've also got us a win penciled in against Arkansas. They've got KJ Jackson. Really, the only thing going for him is he's been there for 2 years, but you've got a new coach in Silverfield, and I completely agree. I think it's not a good hire. I think they were really hoping Alex went their way, and it didn't go that way. We got a late call at midnight, and pulled him in. And he literally had Arkansas contract on his table, and then he got that call, and it's like, that's over. I mean, you're not winning there. I think that's another team who, lost a little amount of talent that they had and have tried to make up for it, but haven't really done well in the portal, is not doing well in recruiting rankings, and the talent's just not there. This is going to be a very rough rebuild year for him. And if Silverfield does work out, then that's great, but it's not going to be in the first 2 years with him. He's not that type of guy who can poof talent at the door and has a big name to call guys on or has the experience to call guys on. I mean, he did good at Memphis, but I think that's just a carryover type of success. But I think we can pencil in a win there. I've got us winning at Miss State, but I completely agree. It's a very scary game. Kamario Taylor is going to be a very talented quarterback. He's got the speed on him. I think he's got some interception issues, and that's going to sort of affect things. It's also going to be late in the year, so he could be banged up because he likes to run. But at this point, I feel like our defense is going to be strong enough to prevent his big plays. And I think with Jeff Lebby in that offense, they're going to be pretty reliant on big playmaking plays. And I think they will find success. I'm a believer in Jeff Lebby. I think Mario Taylor has got some successful years ahead of him, but right now I'm just not seeing it. If he were a 3-year starter, it'd be a different conversation. But I think there's still growth, maturity that needs to happen there, and it's going to be late in the year, and I think we're going to take advantage of their O-line. So I've got a win penciled in there. I think Samford's going to be a good rolling week into Alabama, so I've got a win penciled at Samford to get everybody right, get everyone healthy, and have a little extra game planning weeks for Alabama.
And man, I got to say, if we are 8-3 heading into Bama, this is what you would have us at. With a win against Ole Miss, I mean, over the moon for Alex Golish. over the freaking moon. And obviously, I have us at 7-4. I would still be pretty happy. I would still be really happy. 7 wins, and this is crazy for Auburn. Obviously,
after the crap that we've been through the past 3 years.
Exactly. 7 wins is awesome. At Alabama in the Iron Bowl, I'm going to give it to you straight up. I don't think we can win this game. We can win the Iron Bowl any given year. I don't think we are going to. Alabama's a good team, obviously. The quarterback situation scares me a little bit with Keelan Russell and Austin Mack. Both really don't have a whole lot of semblance of experience, but it's Alabama and they figure things out all the time. And also they just own us and Bryant Denny. And really they own us in the past, 6-7 years. So even when we play better than them, they beat us. We could play better than them for 3.5 quarters and they still win the game. Why is it going to change this year with the first-year head coach? I don't think it does. Nothing. It really sucks that when I think about Georgia and Alabama, I kind of chalk those up as losses right away because those are our 2 biggest games. But it's just I'm trying to be realistic here. I don't see us winning that game. So I got Auburn going 7-5, and you know what? I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, I've also got a loss penciled in there. I mean, the thing that makes me a little bit hopeful is I think their O-line's not going to be very good. I think they're going to make a little bit of a step in the run game, but it's still going to be average at best. But even then, I mean, it was the same thing last year. Their O-line was terrible. Their run game was completely inept, and they're a playoff contender.
At all.
You know, and it didn't matter. So that's why those are with a DeBoer team who can push away some of those weaknesses and find ways to still pull out wins. That's his nature. And I don't really think, like you said, first-year head coach, we're going to find, that hidden part of the game planning that can get us a win. Now, we say this 2 years ago when Golish played him and Byron Brown played him, and it was
close.
I think 14-13 going into the fourth quarter. Now, it ended up being 42-13 or something like that. But going into the fourth quarter, it was 14-13. And, had a lot of Alabama guys really scared. It was Kalen's first, what's going on? And I could definitely see something like that happening just because of how good our D-line is and the effect that we can have on their O-line. If it was in Auburn, I might pick different. Because I'm a big believer. I think Alex can get some guys, especially the first year whenever people are still trying to figure out his system in the SEC. I think he can have some big moments and surprise some coaches. But because it's at Bryant Denny, and I think it'll be Keelan Russell. I think Keelan Russell is going to be pretty good, which it may be Austin Mack at the start, but I still think it's going to devolve at some point into Keelan Russell. I think that's going to be pretty good. I think they've got the wide receivers to make you hurt, and their defense is also really good. So I just don't see that big win coming yet. So I've got us penciled in as a loss and ending 8-4, which I will be completely elated. I'll be so excited.
I do have to agree with you on Alabama, basically. The offensive line really scares me. Really, the whole offensive situation scares me. I think they do drop off this year. I think this is going to look more like a year one DeBoer team 2 years ago when they went 9-3. I think you're a lot closer than that than you are to an SEC championship this year. Again, like you said, their defense is going to be really good. Offense doesn't scare me. It makes me excited how bad they might be. Not bad, but just how not great they might be. Yeah. So I think that's everything that we want to cover. Next week, we're going to come on here and we are going to go over the SEC standings and we're going to go over week 0. And we're going to have more Auburn topics for you. But that's been it. We'll see y'all next week. War Eagle.
War Eagle.